Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. This will probably be the last recording year, or hopefully by next week we'll already be doing in person, and then we'll be able to record it live as opposed to from my uh, office. So this week is Parashat Tavo. Parashat Tavo is almost always the week, the Shabbat before, that Motzei Shabbat is when we start. The Ashkenazim start Slichot. Started already Rosh Chodesh Elul. Also, Parshat Tavo is always read before Rosh Hashanah, usually the week or 2 weeks before. In this case, this week it's 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, two Shabbatot before Rosh Hashanah. And the famous answer to that as to why that is because we want to make sure that the end of the year, all the bad things of the end of the year are read through, so that way the new year starts with on a fresh new note. In this week's Zera Shimshon, we're continuing with the Zera Shimshon as we have been doing as always. So we're going to do Jerush. We're going to do Drush Vav. We're going to do Drush. Yes, we'll do Drush Vav. And then we're going to see if we have another little bit more time. We'll try to do another one of the shorter ones. So in this week's Parsha, like I said, we have the Tochacha, the kind of like the rebuke that Moshe gives to all of Am Yisrael. And he tells us what's going to happen in the event that we don't follow Hashem's words and keep his mitzvot. Before going through all the different hard, many psukim of what's going to happen in the event that we don't follow Hashem's mitzvot and we don't follow the way that we're supposed to do, there's a interesting discrepancy between two of the brachot that correspond to two of the klalot that have the Quran. So if we look at the brachot and we look at the klalot, we'll understand where the Zera Shimshon is bothered by. So he says, is this a Drush Vav, Drush 6 in the Parshat Tavo? So it says, Baruch Pri B'Techa, Pri B'Atmatcha. So it says you'll have the Pri B'Techa, meaning the children, your children, and Pri B'Atmatcha, and your ground, the fruit of your ground. Both the fruit of your womb, meaning your children, and the fruit of your ground will be blessed, will have bracha. And then it says Baruch Tanacha Mishartecha. The very next bracha, it says your fruit basket and all the tools that you have will also be blessed. So he says, in this case, the order is first the children, and then all the sustenance, that is all the food and all the equipment that you would have. However, when you look at the klalot, which correspond almost in the beginning, at least they correspond. Bracha, the klala corresponds to the bracha that we read prior to it. It says v'klalot ulehefech arur tanacha mishartecha. The order is reversed. First, it says cursed are all your tools. Then it says arur bitnecha, and then it states that your children will be cursed. Kasher lama hipecha siddur. Why did the Torah go out of its way to reverse the order? Right? Does the Torah mention with regards to the bracha starts with children, then all the sustenance, and then your tools. And then with regards to the curses, it does the reverse. Reverses first, it curses your tools, then it curses it kind of goes through the things, and then it curses your children. So the question, the Zera Shimshon offers several approaches to the solution as to his question. And the first one he says is like this: right? In both cases, the brachot and the klalot are written in the correct order. This is option one. So he says here, it says here, Ba Zacha, the parak Gimel de Nida Amrinan, in the first the third parak of Nida, it says Ba Zachar Lolam Ba Kikar B'Yado. When a male enters the world, the child enters his meaning his sustenance comes with him. Zachar Zekar. It's alluded by the word Zachar means that Zachar is the combination of the word Zekar, means this is your bracha. It's a bracha of your children, a male. When the nekeva, nikiyaba, right, as opposed to nekeva, a female, it means she comes clean, meaning empty-handed. Adam ramizone lo yahavele, right? Till she says, "Let me have food," it is not given to her, right? So what does that mean? Pirosh Maharsha, the Maharsha says, "Akol hu inyan hamazal." He explains that the entire issue here is about mazal, one's lot in the world, right? It's determined in the time of his birth, right? So the vaki karobia is when a person says his loaf comes within him, not mean it comes from a guarantee of sustenance. Right? Whether for good or bad. When he says women have less personal mazal. Below mazal. Thus, the Gemara says when she says come clean means she doesn't come with mazal. Whatever that means. Right? Her mazal is dependent on her husband or on her father. That's what the Maharsha says. Now he says is that basically Zera Shimshon is saying is that the male child in some ways comes with his own mazal, while a female child is under the mazal of her father or the husband. Now we can say and the second premise is Vasof Kiddushin Amrinan, and at the end of Kiddushin it says Ashrim Misha Banav Zecharim v'Oilo Misha Banav Kibud. It says fortunate are those children who are males, and those are females are not. The second is based on the idea that male children are blessing, and they come from their own mazal. So now these two says it says Ufiza Babrachot. Therefore, it says Da'anyanu sheyu lo banim zecharim, right? Where the assumption is that one will have male children, right? Baruch it says here, right? The Torah wants to tell us that they should have the children should be children male. I actually think we could say it's children that are behave well and they should be blessed. They should be a source of a blessing. They'll bring good mazal to the children. These children that come into the world with mazal, they should continue to bring mazal, provide mazal for their parents or the father, right? And they will therefore bring good mazal to the father. Therefore, consequently, the second part of the brachot is that your fruit basket and everything else will be fulfilled in the father, meaning that the person who is the child who is born first it's pre-vitnacha. First the child, right? That child is born, and that brings good mazal, and then all the other things will, because of that mazal, the good mazal that you get, the good fortune that you get, then all the other things will come out of that as well, will emerge from that. But now we can understand why they get the klalot. It's written the other way, right? The Torah reverses the order. It begins by stating the father will have, less fortune or it will be less fortunate. And that's why it starts with you'll start seeing the ordering of events, the chain of events will start happening. First, you see that your parnasah is impacted. Right? By indicate that the Klala continues by saying that this bad mazal will endure forever. That's why it ends with, it's like this kind of continuum, right? And on the good way is that when your child is born into a good mazal, then the father, and has a good, and is a source of blessing, then the father, you can see the source of blessing continues with the child. As the father continues to be successful and the parents be successful, the child becomes a source of bracha, and therefore, that as a child becomes a source of bracha, the parents are receiving that bracha. However, if the child becomes usually the opposite direction is that your parnasah gets impacted, and then you kind of take it out on your child, if you will, right? It kind of like it starts with bracha, it starts with the parnasah, and it reverses down snowball effects into the children, right? So if you think about it in today's terms, right, we can't just say male children or female children, but we can say is that the father or the person working, the father in this case, and the mother, the parents are the child becomes a source of bracha, so therefore the bracha continues with the child. However, the reverse is when a person's parnasah is impacted. When that impacted, first it starts at the parnasah level, and then it goes down to the child level. So that's the second. That's why the order starts with the children first, and then everything else gets blessed afterwards. But with the klalot, it reverses. Now he says, right? So in this context, the brachot are assumed to be referring to here. He says male, female, but he says the male child has its own mazal, and therefore the bracha of the children is always before the bracha of the sustenance, meaning that because the child becomes a source of good mazal, and therefore everything else comes out of that. Now he says, and if we look here, we could also another alternative option. We're still in Torah Zayin, Torah Vav, Torah Vav is Zera Shimshon. So we can look at another way. We look in the 12th chapter of Ketubot. It says, if the widow says to her husband, right, to her husband's heirs, I can't leave my father's house. a widow it takes place. There's a widow. She says, I can't leave my father's home for whatever reason. So the heirs to that, meaning the children of the original parents, that is the father, the parents are married, the father passes away, so the heirs, that is the children, can say, if you want to receive the inheritance, right? If you're living by us, and if not, then you can't. That's what those are allowed to. Part of the Gemara says, relate to that's why let the provider with support while she's living in her father's house. What, in other words, why do we have to make this condition that the children say, if you live with us, then we can give you money, and if you're not living with us, then we can't give you money? How can we? Why can't we just say we'll give you money while you're living at your father's house too? Amar Rav Huna birkat bayit merubah. The Rav Huna says that the bracha of the household comes from its abundance of the more children, the more people that live in the house, there's more bracha. So he says, Rav Huna says that the greater the number of people that live in the house, the more bracha you have. So when the wife or the mother, the widow, decides to move to her father's house, there is less bracha coming into the house of that family that originally was a family. So the father passes away. Now there's one less because of the father. Mother decides to leave and go back to her father's house. So all of a sudden the children are left alone. And the children say, wait, you go back to our house, because that's when we can give you more money. Why? Why can't give you the bracha and the inheritance then? Because by you living there, there's more bracha. There's a source of bracha. So Rashi, the mazla, the Rabin Adif. Rashi says there that the mazal of a larger group is always better. Meaning, the more people that are there in the home, the more bracha you have. Ad kan l'shano. The imkain shehem merubim b'bayit yesh yoter bracha. That the large number of people that are in the family, the heirs want the mother to live with them because they get more bracha. That's why they said we can give you the food, we can give you, but when you're not living with us, we're going to be lacking bracha, right? Of course, there's bracha when there are less people. There's bigger bracha, and therefore the bracha here is what we're seeing is that the more people that live in a home, there's a sense of bracha, a sense of activity, a sense of bracha and blessing, and that's why when the widow moves back to her parents' house, and she moves out of the house and leaves the heirs to themselves, all of a sudden the heirs say, "Wait a minute, yes, we have bracha, but we don't have as much as when you were there, because you make us the greater number of people, the greater quantity of people, and therefore the greater quantity means more bracha." And that's why when you look at the brachot now in that context, you can see that in the brachot, when it was talking about the brachot, it says Yiktim Baruch Privit Necha. It says the bracha says, the brachot said, the Torah says, your fruit of your womb, that is your children, Shekshayu b'nei bayit merubim tiyeh yoter gdulat bracha. When you have many people in your household, right, the blessing, the bracha in the household will be greater. Then afterwards, now we can understand why after the more children you have, after that you can see the context and say, I understand that the more children I have, the bigger, the fuller the house is, then I can say that all the things that come out of that, that is my tools, my work, everything else is bracha from that, because I have more people and therefore I have to sustain more people, and therefore Hashem gives me more bracha, right? And it gives us a sense of baklala, but in regard to the curse, now we understand why it's reversed. Imaya sorry, had the Torah first written, cursed are those your children, and then cursed are those tools and everything else that are around you, right? That the only amount of the sustenance that will be lessened through the curse is of your baskets of fruit, is the amount that originally increased as a result of the blessing of the number of children. Meaning, if I would have written it the way it was written in the brachot, then I would have said, if there's only, I would have only been decreased, or the klal would only be in that which you have above and beyond the bracha that you need to sustain the children, right? So that if you have X as the baseline, and because you have so many children, you get X times 10. So the klala, it's if the pasuk was reversed, meaning first you would say your tools and everything and the bracha that you have would be cursed, so then it would only take you down to X. But here he's saying is no, it's greater than that. This is meaning that what? It says the Torah is saying is that now that due to the curse of the fruits of your womb, those children died and their number diminished. He's saying is no. Arur it says arur, the arur of the children is at the end. Why? Because your bracha becomes less, then your children they die because you don't have any food. They die too, and then for even more bracha. So it's just snowball down in a negative way, right? When you use bracha, everything happens, everything just increases in the snowball in a positive way. But here's slowly snowballing down, meaning that you don't have enough food, you don't have all your tools are not getting bracha. It means you're not getting enough parnasa, and then what happens is your children can't eat, can't afford food. Now all these different things happen. Avalo nitmeit ala tosefah, but the only amount nitmataf bracha, the bracha, right? It would be saying that due to the curse of when the children died and the number diminished. If the pasuk would have been a copy of what it was in the brachot and in the klalot, then it would have been just sound like your children. It would have said right? Your children die, and then you have no money because that extra surplus is what gets cursed. No, what he's saying is, but he says mishum hachi hikdim arur tanacha. First, it says your fruit basket and all your tools will be cursed. He's saying is that even when the children, or you have a lot of children in your house, the klala is so great that even when you have children in your house and you have lots of family and lots of activity in your house, you would think that maybe Hashem has to provide. He says no. Even when you, in one sense, it's the bracha. When the bracha is there, you have so much bracha and so much shefa from the extra people that are around your house. Here he's saying is the reason why it starts with pre. It's that's why it says arur tanacha, right? To teach you that they're needing that first. It starts with that everything that you try to sell and everything that you try to do will be klala, and then even that plus all the extra things that you would otherwise say that my house is full of people, I need to have food. All that will be cursed too. So he's saying it starts with the parnasa. The parnasa will be less, and all these things will happen less because the good in a positive sense when it's positive. So the positive sense is that when you have a lot of children, right? When you have a lot of children, then the shefa and the bracha comes. Here is saying is when you have a lot of the parnasa that you have will be less, and then all the things that will happen down the line, and and then everything, even your children will be cursed. And he's saying that mikol shekain sheitma too, and even so more so once the household are diminished, which they will be. Right? At that point, when the number of children will be decreased, right? Then also the bracha will be decreased. So it's a reverse snowball. So the snowball, obviously the bracha is what we want. But what we're teaching us is, first of all, we're learning a very valuable lesson. The bracha, children automatically bring bracha to the household, right? And they bring it. Therefore, when it comes to the brachot, the Jewish people, Moshe is telling the Jewish people that the bracha of children precedes the bracha of sustenance, right? So that all the bracha that we get, the sustenance that we get, is because of the children will be even greater. The more children we have, the more the bracha that we get. With regards to the klalot, on the other hand, the curse of the sustenance is stated first to tell us that the lessening of the sustenance is independent of the punishment of the lessening of children. With the onset of the curse of the children, the sustenance will decrease even more. Meaning, so he's saying is with regards to the bracha, you have more children, you get more bracha. They happen automatically. But with regards to the curse, it's independent. He's saying is that right the lessening of the sustenance is independent of the punishment of the lessening of the children. So you're having two curses plus the lessening of the sustenance as well. The children will decrease even more. Meaning once you have the children being cursed, then you also have less money, and then it continues that way as well. We hope to have this year. May this year end with the bracha, and when you let the right? We want the brachot to end. We want the klalot to end now, so that the new year has tachel shana uvirchotel. We want the new year to be filled with brachot, and I hope that this next couple of weeks, and as we get closer to Rosh Hashanah, we need to recognize and acknowledge what bracha and what shefa we have, but at the same time we say is whatever things are not going the way we would like them to go, we continue to hope and pray and daven for the brachot to happen in the coming year. Shabbat shalom.